Mahindrawati, saya sudah berkecimpung di bidang Business Process Management dan Enterprise System, juga Supply Chain Management selama hampir 20 tahun. Saya percaya bahwa teori dan praktik harus berjalan beriringan. Mini MBA ini dirancang agar kita bisa memahami dengan lebih baik bagaimana proses dalam rantai pasok itu bisa dibuat lebih efisien, kemudian dapat meningkatkan kinerja dari organisasi secara keseluruhan.
Cukup berbeda dengan materi-materi sertifikasi, kita ingin mengangkat dari knowledge itu ke practical side. Kita juga akan melakukan banyak diskusi, juga berbasis pada studi kasus yang real terjadi di dunia supply chain.
Jadi tunggu apa lagi?
Ayo bergabung para profesional supply chain management di Indonesia
Pada Mini MBA ISCEA Indonesia.
Ucapkan dalam acara Supply Chain Innovation Summit 2024. Boleh dong saya tepuk tangan semangat baginya Bapak dan Ibu.
Understanding supply chain management is essential in today's fast-paced business world. It equips professionals to handle complex.
Your customers expect rapid, reliable delivery. But in these times of uncertainty, you need to predict, prevent, and pivot to supply chain challenges and disruption. The solution? Slim Stock. We help businesses around the world achieve their strategic objectives and unlock sustainable growth. Slim 4, our award-winning platform, is built around 4 cornerstones of success: efficiency, sustainability, empowerment, and innovation. Efficiency is more than just a goal. It's the engine that drives profitability, customer satisfaction, and growth. Slim 4 underpins the people and processes throughout your supply chain. AI-powered insights, intelligent forecasting, dynamic supply planning, data-driven product management, and integrated S&OP. These are the tools at your fingertips to enable seamless cross-functional collaboration throughout your end-to-end supply chain. Better for the planet and your profit margins, Slim 4 helps you orchestrate supply and demand to help eliminate waste, reduce stock, reduce shipments, reduce CO2 footprint. Together, we can make substantial sustainability gains and create a better customer experience. We give your team the tools and the knowledge to succeed. Guarantee fast adoption with flexible views, to-do lists and dashboards, all wrapped up in a tool they'll love. To take full advantage, they need the right knowledge. That's why our Slim Stock Academy equips your team with the skills and insights to make operational, tactical, and strategic decisions with confidence. Stay ahead with a scalable platform and an experienced partner at your side. At Slim Stock, we complete over 150 successful digital transformation projects every year. This experience not only elevates your team with the latest best practices and cross-industry knowledge, but also informs and enriches our development roadmap. As a result, our Slim 4 platform is continually being advanced with new enhancements every 3 weeks, delivering the next generation planning capabilities necessary to future-proof your business. planning teams around the world trust Slimstock to conquer their challenges, delivering in-budget supply chain transformation that decimates traditional implementation timescales and guarantees ROI within 1 year. Whatever your industry, our team of supply chain experts are here for you and your business, and here for your success.
Delapan tahun perjalanan Sun Energy. 8 tahun membangun masa depan yang lebih cerah. Sebagai simbol komitmen tanpa batas, perjalanan kami dalam mewujudkan energi berkelanjutan terus melangkah. Kami melampaui waktu, melampaui batasan. Hingga 2024, proyek kami telah mencapai 185 megawatt peak. Menjadikan Sun Energy pengembang energi surya nomor 1 di Indonesia. Dari ujung Sumatera hingga timur Indonesia, Sun Energy tumbuh dari tanah air. Sun Energy kini menjadi pionir energi terbarukan yang membawa nama Indonesia ke tingkat Asia Pasifik. Komitmen kami pada environmental, social, and governance terwujud lewat aksi nyata. Dari instalasi panel surya di daerah terpencil, hingga edukasi masyarakat tentang energi bersih. Kami memastikan dampak positif yang berkelanjutan. Kolaborasi kami dengan pemimpin industri menciptakan solusi energi bersih yang berdampak positif, serta mendapatkan kepercayaan dari lembaga keuangan di Indonesia melalui penyaluran pendanaan hijau hingga 2 triliun rupiah di tahun 2024. 8 tahun ini hanyalah awal dari perjalanan panjang menuju masa depan tanpa batas. Sun Energy siap menyongsong era baru energi masa depan, menjadi katalis perubahan untuk Indonesia nol emisi karbon dan masa depan yang berkelanjutan. Sun Energy, dari Indonesia hadirkan energi berkelanjutan untuk generasi masa depan bangsa.
Awali harimu dengan inspirasi. Harapan untuk terbang lebih tinggi. Menyusun mimpi demi sebuah visi. Karena kita harus terus bergerak. Menentukan arah tujuan. Memutar roda ekonomi. Merancang masa depan. Kami adalah SIG, perusahaan solusi bangunan multinasional yang terdepan di Indonesia. Mengatasi setiap tantangan industri dengan kemajuan digitalisasi dan teknologi, juga riset dan inovasi yang mengedepankan produk, serta layanan berkualitas tinggi. Kami bekerja untuk kesejahteraan bangsa. Kami percaya setiap proyek pembangunan adalah sebuah amanah yang selalu mendekatkan kami kepada masyarakat dan lingkungan. Kami bangga terhadap kontribusi kami bagi negara. Kami hadir di setiap fase pertumbuhan dan kami terus meluaskan jangkauan untuk Indonesia maju. Produk dan layanan kami telah teruji. Cepat, berkualitas, ramah lingkungan, mendukung upaya transformasi berkelanjutan. Masa depan adalah tanggung jawab kita bersama, mendorong kita untuk terus melakukan yang terbaik. Karena setiap hari adalah tantangan juga kemenangan. Bangun semangatmu untuk esok hari. Selalu melampaui jangkauan bersama SIG. Go Beyond Next.
Your customers expect rapid, reliable delivery. But in these times of uncertainty, you need to predict, prevent, and pivot to supply chain challenges and disruption. The solution? SlimStock. We help businesses around the world achieve their strategic objectives and unlock sustainable growth. Slim4, our award-winning platform, is built around 4 cornerstones of success: efficiency, sustainability, empowerment, and innovation. Efficiency is more than just a goal. It's the engine that drives profitability, customer satisfaction, and growth. Slim4 underpins the people and processes throughout your supply chain. AI-powered insights, intelligent forecasting, dynamic supply planning, data-driven product management, and integrated S&OP. These are the tools at your fingertips to enable seamless cross-functional collaboration throughout your end-to-end supply chain. Better for the planet and your profit margins, Slim4 helps you orchestrate supply and demand to help eliminate waste, reduce stock, reduce shipments, reduce CO2 footprint. Together, we can make substantial sustainability gains and create a better customer experience. We give your team the tools and the knowledge to succeed. Guarantee fast adoption with flexible views, to-do lists and dashboards, all wrapped up in a tool they'll love. To take full advantage, they need the right knowledge. That's why our SlimStock Academy equips your team with the skills and insights to make operational, tactical, and strategic decisions with confidence. Stay ahead with a scalable platform and an experienced partner at your side. At SlimStock, we complete over 150 successful digital transformation projects every year. This experience not only elevates your team with the latest best practices and cross-industry knowledge, but also informs and enriches our development roadmap. As a result, our Slim4 platform is continually being advanced with new enhancements every 3 weeks, delivering the next-generation planning capabilities necessary to future-proof your business. Planning teams around the world trust SlimStock to conquer their challenges, delivering in-budget supply chain transformation that decimates traditional implementation timescales and guarantees ROI within 1 year. Whatever your industry, our team of supply chain experts are here for you and your business, and here for your success.
Delapan tahun perjalanan Sun Energy. 8 tahun membangun masa depan yang lebih cerah. Sebagai simbol komitmen tanpa batas, perjalanan kami dalam mewujudkan energi berkelanjutan terus melangkah. Kami melampaui waktu, melampaui batasan. Hingga 2024, proyek kami telah mencapai 185 MW peak. Menjadikan Sun Energy pengembang energi surya nomor 1 di Indonesia. Dari ujung Sumatera hingga timur Indonesia, Sun Energy tumbuh dari tanah air. Sun Energy kini menjadi pionir energi terbarukan yang membawa nama Indonesia ke tingkat Asia Pasifik. Komitmen kami pada environmental, social, and governance terwujud lewat aksi nyata. Dari instalasi panel surya di daerah terpencil, hingga edukasi masyarakat tentang energi bersih. Kami memastikan dampak positif yang berkelanjutan. Kolaborasi kami dengan pemimpin industri menciptakan solusi energi bersih yang berdampak positif, serta mendapatkan kepercayaan dari lembaga keuangan di Indonesia melalui penyaluran pendanaan hijau hingga 2 triliun rupiah di tahun 2024. 8 tahun ini hanyalah awal dari perjalanan panjang menuju masa depan tanpa batas. Sun Energy siap menyongsong era baru energi masa depan, menjadi katalis perubahan untuk Indonesia nol emisi karbon dan masa depan yang berkelanjutan. Sun Energy, dari Indonesia hadirkan energi berkelanjutan untuk generasi masa depan bangsa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening everyone. Welcome to the special lecture session of Supply Chain Innovation Summit or SCIS 2025. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andi and I will be your host and moderator for these sessions. So tonight we are honored to have with us one of the expert in the sustainability in supply chain, Associate Professor Dr. Janya Chanchaicujit from Center for Sustainable Logistics and Supply Chain Management, Prince Songkhla University, Thailand, to share her insight on a very relevant and exciting topic. We are going to talk about designing for sustainability, transforming supply chain through digital and energy innovations. So before we begin these sessions, a gentle reminder to all participants, please keep your microphone on mute during the sessions and feel free to drop your question in the chat box, because we will have a dedicated Q&A session after this presentation. Before I introduce you to our great presenter today, let me deliver some information that might be useful for the session. So first of all, I'm going to send our special gratitude to our sponsors, Slimstock, Sun Energy, and SIG, and also to our media partner, Kompasiana, Media Indonesia, GNFI, and Transgo News. So everyone here are from the professional supply chains. So we're going to introduce you about SCIS. So SCIS is an annual program by ISCEA Indonesia that serves a platform for presenting innovation and supply chain improvement projects from various organizations within and without the ISCEA Indonesia's community. So these sessions is the 6th editions of SCIS, featuring 8 online sessions, 1 special lecture, which is today, and 1 offline session or final day that will be held in Area Duta Menteng, Jakarta at July 12, 2025, which is next month, with the grand theme empowering sustainability supply chain, harnessing digitalization, AI, and energy innovations. So this theme is not only slogan, it represents the real direction of future supply chain transformations. And everyone here, maybe some of you not knowing yet about ISCEA Indonesia. So we are the official representative of the International Supply Chain Education Alliance, which is in a headquartered in the USA. We are a provider of the global recognized certifications in supply chain field. Our certification program in Indonesia, including CSCA, CPLM, CPSP, CSSCP, and also CSCM. If you're interested in joining any certification program or ISCA event, please feel free to click the link that will be shared by admin in the chat box. And special for today, we have a giveaway for tonight's sessions. Okay, so tonight's session, we inform you and we encourage you, don't forget to share your excitement for today's sessions on your Instagram story or LinkedIn post, including your insight and impressions of your sessions today. And get the chance to win the training voucher worth 500,000 rupiah. And You can share everything that you talk and your insight from these sessions in your social media. And the last, before I introduce you to our speaker today, let me remind you about technical reminder. Ensure you have a stable internet connection. Second, use your real name when you're joining this Zoom meeting. And the last is, if you're joining from vehicle or public place, prioritize your safety first. So without further ado, allow me to brief introduce our distinguished speaker. So Miss Janya already here in our room also. Hello, Miss.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. Actually, we meet in the last month in Singapore, right? So this Miss Janya bringing the one of the best presentation about sustainability. That's why she's here with us today. So Associate Professor Dr. Chanchaicujit, is it correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to pronounce it right. Is now a director of Center for Sustainable Logistics and Supply Chain Management, and also assistant president for promoting of foreign affairs in the Prince of Songkhla University, Thailand. Besides that, she has a qualification over 20 years of experience in logistics and supply chain management, especially in green and sustainable logistics and supply chain management. She also proven the record leading some consultant, resource person, capacity building for MI, Uniscap, UPU, United, and SDSN in Asia Pacific, supported project in Thailand, GMS region, and Asia in the green freight logistics, transforming in net zero for freight transport and digital transformation in agriculture supply chain. Wow, what an insightful qualification for someone who will bring our topic today. And for the clue today, we are going most likely talking about transformation process, and we're going to also talk about purchasing and procurement process in a sustainability, which is not really many speaker will talk about this. So without further ado, please welcome Miss Janya. Miss Janya, to deliver your presentation. The screen is yours.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Evening, everyone. Thank you, Andy, for your introduction and thank you for inviting me today. It's my great pleasure to be here and joining the ISCEA community for today, the lectures. So allow me to share my slide. Okay, so did you see my slide properly?
Yeah, but there is. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. So for today's session, so I'm going to talk about designing for sustainability, transforming supply chain through digital and energy innovation. Um, I got this title, I got this topic from Andy. And then I just highlighting the word transforming because like myself, I'm not expert in digital or energy. So I think that what I can bring to these sessions and might be sharing my insight is the transformation, because most of my work is more like developing the roadmap, developing strategies, and then execution. So I think this might be one of the area that interest for the group of participants today. Okay, Andy already introduced me about myself. I'm currently working at Prince of Songkhla University in Thailand. And if you see my name, my surname, you know exactly I'm Thai, because most of Thai, they have, quite a long surname. Okay, so for today, the key discussion topic, I have six discussion points. So I'm going to start with bring you on the evolution of the supply chain management trends and strategy. because I think it is important, because if we want to discuss about the sustainability and also transforming the supply chain, it's worth for us to go back a little bit, about 20 years, and then just exploring, and then remind a little bit what happening in the past 20 years in supply chain evolution. And then I will continue with supply chain emissions. This is very important because when we talk about the sustainability supply chain emission is one area that we have to really understand it clearly. And also we have to know how to accounting in terms of reporting, measuring, and then developing strategy for minimizing all those emissions. And then I will continue with introducing an integrated approach to sustainable supply chain transformation. Apart from the energy and digital, I'm starting with introduce the operational efficiency, because this is something that all company can start with improving your own operation efficiency. And then I follow by discussing about key challenges of sustainable supply chain transition, because I know this is, when we talk about sustainable supply chain, there's a lot of challenge, there's a lot of barriers, and now how we are going to embrace all those barriers and challenges. And then I will follow by introduce you one of the catalysts, which is the procurement. We need mechanism to transforming the supply chain to be more sustainable. And I will conclude with my final remark, how us as a community, the supply chain community is leading the sustainable transition, which I will leave my two final remarks in terms of the capacity building and then the collaborations among all stakeholders. Okay, so I'm just going to start about the evolution of the supply chain. And I'm not sure that participants in this room, you in this industry for how long? Like myself, I've been in this industry, I think it's more than 20 years. So I will bring you back to the past 20 years. Okay, so, during the 2000, the year of 2000, if we think about supply chain, what do you think about the supply chain? Any trends on that area? So I think there's no kind of responding session, right? So I keep continuing. So the major trend in 2000, actually, it's about the globalization. If we, back to the year of 2000, at that time, it's the era of ASEAN. It's actually, we are the manufacturing of the world. And then, globalizations, driving low cost, high volume logistic. And then the trend is cost reduction, because most of the company, they are seeking for low cost production, low cost manufacturing. And because the major trend is about cost, is about globalization. So their strategy at that time is also about productivity, enhancing productivity, increasing cost. If we study logistics, supply chain management at that time, you hear about just in time, lean, outsourcing strategy. And that time is the early period of ERP adoption as well. So I would say that in the first, like 2000, the trend and strategy is about cost and efficiency. Okay, and then when it comes to 2010, major trend is about e-commerce. So that time is the rise of e-commerce. So we are very enjoying, all the products from the US, from Europe. And then, it's very convenient. We even have the same day delivery if this is in the countries, or 3 days, across continent. So with this, very quick, and then the product is getting smaller. So previously, on the globalization, most of the product is like a container shipment. It's large volume because of the cost reduction. But then it come to 2010. At that time, because of e-commerce, product is more a smaller piece and quick and fast. Okay. So most of the strategy come with, warehouse management system. And we also hear, omni-channel at that time. I think I really do believe that if you are, you're working on 2010, everybody hear about, you heard about omni-channel. So we start to have the platform service. And that time, the digital adoption is start to implementing with RFID, Internet of Things, and then the early stage of AI. Because of quick, we also have to have the visibility and traceability of the products because of the e-commerce. So this, this era of the supply chain is about technology integration and adoption. So it comes to just recently, 2019, what happened to our supply chain? Okay, so that is the pandemic. So everything is kind of stuck, and it changed completely landscape of the supply chain. Because of, the pandemic, it was locked down, raw material supply chain. So on this, the trend is because of the pandemic, we start to have the geopolitics problems. And then business start to face about the natural disaster, and then it immediately, suddenly have the AI or digital disruption. So this is the strategy. It has changed and shifting to be resilience, and then risk versus resiliencies. So previously, we are pretty much like we prefer to have the centralized warehousing, zero stock, just in time, a very, very minimizing our stock. But because of the pandemic, our strategy has shifting to be resiliency. We have to have the buffer. And then apart from offshore, outsourcing. So most of the supply chain manufacturing is thinking, just go back to nearshoring. And then supplier raw material sourcing, they are more regional rather than globally because risk is very important. And then, after pandemic on the supply chain, we are talking about resiliency and risk management. So cost will become the second priority. Risk is become the top priority of most of the company. Okay. And then suddenly, not really suddenly, on the year 2024, we start to hear about net zero emissions. We start to hear about carbon neutrality, and all company, like my country, Thailand, we have the national commitment at COP meeting that we are working towards the net zero emission. And that is something that suddenly transforming our business, especially for supply chain, to be more sustainable. And then we have to start to think about how we are going to minimizing, reducing carbon footprint of our supply chain and our operation. But actually, this I also want to bring back a little bit that when we talk about climate change, when we talk about the pressure to reduce greenhouse gas emission, and then it might be on year 2024 for some of you or like some of our colleagues that is first time to hear about net zero emission. Okay. Prior to that, we never heard about this word before. If we are not really working in the climate or something about environmental sustainability. So what is the major trend after this? The major trend is most of the company, you have to know your emission footprint. You also have to disclose the emission report and then tracking. And then we might have to pay for carbon tax. Okay, so with the global trend about climate change, actually it not just happened if we trace back this, Kyoto Protocol starts since 2005, but because we are more focused in terms of cost, and then, with the environmental, something about not really relating to cost is going to pushing it not as a priority. And so at that time, actually, when we talk about supply chain or logistics, we already have clean logistics and clean supply chain, because and then this we continue with 2015 for the Paris Agreement. I think Paris Agreement is really mark a milestone for all of us, because that Paris Agreement, it has already agreed to reduce the greenhouse gas emission of global greenhouse gas emission. It also set, a national and then global commitment for all companies and then all countries around the world. On year 2016 is the first SDG report is launched. So, since 2016, we also have to work according to SDG. And then 2019, Singapore has released the Singapore carbon tax. European Green Deal on 2020. Okay, so you see that, prior to year 2024, actually there's already an actions. They're already as a group of the expert or industry people that working towards reducing the emissions and carbon footprints. And then Germany also released the German carbon tax. 2023, this is another very important year, because CBAM transitional start. And like us in ASEAN, Southeast Asia, we are exporting countries. So if we are exporting the products to Europe, so this is really matter to your company, because you have to make sure that you are qualifying and you have this compliance that you have to follow. Last year, Thailand has discussed about to launch the Thailand carbon tax. Okay, so next year, 2026, CBAM in force. So that is another milestone that we really have to be very careful. If your companies has a customer in Europe, or if you are part of the supply chain, global supply chain, definitely this will impact to your company. Okay, 2029, that Thailand is going to issue the Thailand ETS system. And then 2030, so this is the year that is very important, because like in my country, Thailand has a national commitment to reduce 30 to 40% of greenhouse gas emission on year 2030. And then on 2030, there's a lot of already regulations and also some of mechanism that enforce. For example, Thailand has issued 40% of greenhouse gas reduction from our business as usual. So that is our national commitment, which is already deployed to all priority sector. Logistic transportation is one of the priority sector that we also have to reduce approximately 30% of our greenhouse gas emission by 2030. And in Europe, there are supply chain transparency regulation that all supply chain have to disclose their greenhouse gas emission. That is very important, because we definitely might be part of the global supply chain, which will impact to our company. And then there's a standard of green fuel, fossil fuel vehicle phase out that is going to launch in Europe. Okay, and then 2050 is net zero emission. I think most of the company and then like country, especially in ASEAN, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and I do believe Indonesia as well, that has the national commitment to achieve net zero emission in the year of 2015. So actually these are the trend, and I also have to highlighting a little bit that we also have this year, Trump 2.0, that we also have to mention that this geopolitics, and then it's about tariff, definitely will impact to our supply chain as well. Okay, so what is important of this landscape is, so now if we look at the supply chain, in the past 25 years, sustainability is already there, but it might not as a priority, because of, the globalization, the cost reduction, and then some e-commerce rising, or even COVID. But if you look back, sustainability is, already there since, the year 2000. So now the thing is, what should be the strategies for all the companies? Because we know that we have to work towards, we have no exception. And this is what we are going to discuss today, that the strategy to transforming your supply chain or your organization to be more sustainable and to be greener and greening your operations. Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing the three scopes of the carbon accounting from greenhouse gas protocol. I am not sure if you're familiar with the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So I give you a little bit that. So normally for the supply chain, if you are reporting or disclosing the greenhouse gas emission, you have to measure and then report it for 3 scopes. Scope 1 is your own operation. So this is basically is the carbon footprint of your own operations, your own asset. Okay, so it is including most of the energy consumptions, and then everything, energy that is relating from your own operation. Scope 2, that is from electricities. Okay, and then the one that is very important is scope 3. So if you look at this, the scope 3 is the supply chain. Scope 3 is supply chain emission. So this is from upstream supply chain and then also downstream. So this is any emission that come from outside of your organization. For example, that raw material that you're using, that is come from your supplier, and then transportation that you use your logistics service provider or the carrier or your subcontractor. You also have to reporting. So this is the three scope of carbon accounting, and why this is challenging. So look at this. You see that most of the carbon emission, it comes from scope 3. And then some of the sector, for example, agricultural or transport, the scope 3 emission is, is more than 90%. So this is very important because you have to get this from your supplier. Okay, it's something that you are not able to control. But if your company, you are working, you have the mission, a very clear mission and vision, to be carbon neutrality or net zero emission, you have to report the scope 1, 2, and 3. So scope 3, that comes from your supply chain partner. And that is why supply chain collaborations, and mechanisms or any trigger that working together with your supplier to reducing emission is very important, because that is not only your organization. So, for example, that your company, you might be scope 3 of your customer. You have to report your emission to your customer as well. And also at the same time, if you want to report your own organization emission, you also have to get your supplier emission report as well. So now you see that all the supply chain is all connected. And if you are part of the supply chain, you have to do this as well. So for example, if you think that, okay, well, my company is not quite ready yet, we probably will not start this year, or we'll keep it at the moment. We have to work in other perspective. We are focused in any other thing else. But if your customer is requesting, you have to work toward this, because apart from regulation, the customer requirement, I think this is very powerful as well. And some of the country, for example, like in Thailand, any listed in stock market have to report emission scope 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that is one of kind of mechanism to pushing all the company have to start to calculating, measuring, and then reporting the emission. And when we are reporting emission, it's not just reporting, because you have to reporting every year. And then on every year, you also have to have the strategy to reduce emission as well. So that is the way that I highlighting at the beginning of the session, that the transforming is very important, that how are you going to transform your supply chain to be sustainability. Okay, and what is the role of the supply chain? And this is important because disclosing supply chain data is becoming more important for companies looking to understand and act on the environmental impact. And there's a lot of growing pressure from investor, regulators, competitors, and consumer. Investor, so now it is very clear that in terms of the investment banking system, so they all have this criteria as well. For example, this can come as a barrier or opportunity. For example, that if you have your carbon or climate action roadmap, you may able to get some of the funding from investment or investor. You may get more opportunity to get more funding. But on the other hand, if you don't have any plan working about the climate action, you may have some barrier to access to funding. I think this is also very important. Regulator, this is quite clear. Now, there's a lot of regulations that you have to disclose and report emission. Competitors, and then consumer. If you want to be competitive in the market, definitely, if customer requests for the carbon emission report or disclosure or actions, if you don't have it, if you are not able to submit this, your customer may move to your competitors that is able to fulfill this requirement. Okay, and this is the insight from CDP report. I think this, so basically what does this figure means? It means that the supplier were 52% more likely to reduce the emission when the buyer offer financial incentive. And then basically the buyer is the most influencing actors to pushing the supply chain to be more sustainable. Okay, so if the buyer or the customer, they are requesting, the supplier are more likely to act. And if they are more likely to act, they are able to reduce the emission. And that the financial saving or initiative of the targeting scope 3 will be very huge. So basically, to make it more easy for this kind of figure is, the message of this page is a buyer or customer is the most influencing actor to pushing your supply chain to be more sustainability. Okay, and then later I'm going to introduce you about the procurement for sustainability, that why the buyer is very important in this mechanism to pushing all the supply chain to be more sustainable. Okay, so the first session I highlighting about the trend and the strategy of supply chain, and then also introducing you about the supply chain emission, how it is important, and sooner or later it will really impact to your company, because it's not because of you who make decision that I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. But it really depends on your supply chain network, especially from your customer and then the regulators. So the integrated approach for to sustainable supply chain transformation, I'm going to give you 3 approach. Actually, it's 2 approach and 1 enabler. I'm starting with the operational efficiency. And the reason that I'm introducing the operational efficiency as the first, approach is because this is not requiring any investment. Because sometimes, I always got some questions that, okay, if we want to be sustainable, we have to invest. We are not ready. We don't have the funding. We are struggling in the financial. We have to invest in electric vehicles? Do we have to change all of our fleet, our vehicles? But actually, that is the later stage. The first stage is you have to really investigating your operations, okay? And then you enhance your operational efficiency. You're trying to find a way to improve your operation efficiency, because the principle is if you increase your operation efficiency, basically you're reducing the resources, you're reducing the energy use, energy consumption, and that is automatically reducing your costs. And then you got double impact to reducing emissions. Okay, so this is the first step. You don't need to invest anything. And it depends on the company. Some company that already very productive, very efficient, they might have kind of a smaller room for the improvement or the reduction. But some company, they might able to improve this and then reduce emission up to about 40 or 50%. So this is based on the study in Europe. Most of the European company, they're already efficient. So they have the potential of, working to improve operational and then reducing emission around approximately 20%. But based on my work in Thailand, actually we have potential up to 40 to 50%. And now you can see that this no require any investment. Okay, for example, that you have to check about your logistics, your operation, trying to find a way to minimizing resource, reducing waste, and then emission. You got double impact, cost reduction, and emission reduction. And then another strategy, for example, optimizing inventory and transport. This is very important. Collaboration with your partner, with your supplier, with your customer. You can adopt the vendor managed inventories, and then you're sharing some of the inventory or stock with your partner. Routing and fleet optimization. And this is very important because if you can reducing a traveling distance, especially for logistic and transportation company, that it means that you reduce energy consumption. And then you've got, reducing costs and then emissions. And backhaul management. And this is and one area that I like to highlighting as well, because one of the company, logistic company in Thailand, that I give them some advice, that they are able to reduce the emission from backhauling approximately 40%. You transport, deliver the product to the destination, and then on the way back, there's a lot of transportation modeling. You can also working in terms of the network rerouting, and then transportation optimization. And then from this, if you're able to optimizing the routing and network. So actually this is a very kind of a large potential of the emission reduction. And from this, you can have some of the technology as enabler, that data-driven planning. If you have this system, for example, the transport management system that embedded with the AI or big data analytics, you can have a better transportation planning. On this is actually there's a potential of reducing cost and emission. And then shifting to circular models. And this is also, we have to shifting from linear model for the business and operation to be circular. starting from trying to reducing the resource, and then if you are not able to reduce, are you able to reuse? Or you can get back, use a recycle or refurbish. All these strategy can also adopt for, all your business as well. And then the concept of reduce high emission intensity across all stages. For example, for logistics and transport, this is quite clear. Model shift to lower emission mode. For example, if your normal operation, you are more dominant or heavy on a road freight transportation, you might be able, you have to also consider whether there are kind of potential of the emission reduction as well. If you shift to a lower emission mode of transportation, for example, that from road to rail or from road to short sea shipping, especially from, like in Indonesia, that you are able to utilizing, some of the sea transportation to this. And then the second approach is about energy innovation and green transition. So basically, if you are already working on the operational efficiency and then you want to reduce more emissions, you can also, on top of this, transition for the green energy and green fuel or green vehicles. For example, that you can also transition to use renewable energies in logistics and facility, especially in our region. We are very lucky that we have, abundant solar or wind, which we can use it as a renewable energies, and this is some company, for example, the Toyota, if you are their supplier, if you are part of their supply chain, they also have a clear, the contract to their supplier that on 2030, all of their supplier have to use 100% renewable energies. Okay, so, if you are part of their supply chain, you also have to follow all these, purchasing criteria as well. And then invest in energy efficient equipment, green infrastructure, electrify, feed, and promote model shift. And there's option for green fuel and energy. And then I like to highlighting on this part is implement carbon tracking and reduction strategy. This is very important because if you don't know your company emission carbon footprint baseline, you can't reducing it. You have to start to measure. And then once you measure, you know your baseline. And then you know your carbon hotspot, where are your operation. So you can start to plan and then implement some of the strategy to reducing it. And when you are start to measure your emission, make sure that you are start and then accounting according to the international standards. For example, that for organization, you have to follow the ISO 14064, ISO 14067, but for transportation level, there's ISO 14083 or the CLIC framework, which is, make sure that you are follow the emission measurement and accounting according to the international standards. And then this is digital transformation. I would consider this as enabler. And then I will not go very much in detail on this because I think you have already had a session about the digital, how to adopt digital for your logistic and supply chain. But, I'm more focusing and highlighting in the operational efficiency, energy innovation, and then digital. This is enabler. You have to embed it. Okay. All right, and this is option for fuel and energy. Now there's several options. There are various options, and there always has a question that, well, which way we should go now or later, or shall we wait a little bit? Well, whether electric vehicle is a promising technology or hydrogen, or like in Thailand and also in Indonesia as well. We are agricultural countries, we had a lot of feedstock, or maybe, biodiesel. You know, a biofuel might be one of the strategy. But what I'm going to highlighting in this slide is when we make decision, it's not only us, it's not only our company. We also have to consider all ecosystem in your countries, you know, not only countries, regional, and then global as well. What the policy maker of your countries, do you have, you know, a vehicle manufacturing, investor, and then energy provider and operator? Okay, so all these we have to consider it not as a single company, but we also have to consider it as all the ecosystem. And then a policy maker have to be part of this decision making as well. Okay, so I'm going to highlight some key challenges of the sustainable supply chain transition that is actually, I know this is not easy, and I already been in this journey for quite a while with several companies in Thailand or in, you know, like in the countries, and I know that it is very, very difficult. But anyway, this is, if we want to transition our supply chain to be sustainable, there are several key challenges that I like to share. For example, that fragmentation across the sector. You know, supply chain, you have supplier, manufacturer, logistic, and retailer, you know, and operate in silo. So you have to bring everybody together. You have to speak in the same language. You have to put everybody in the same page. You have to really sharing vision and mission to all your supplier and then supply chain partner. And also the visibilities, you know, as we know that we have supply chain, we have tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. So you have to make sure that our strategies also align for all our supply chain partner, cost and risk perceptions. You know, many firms still view the sustainable as this is expensive. And then the regulatory gaps and policy fragmentation, especially, you know, if, you know, in the regional, if this is in the country, is okay, but logistic supply chain is cross-border, and this is a global. So, you know, we have country regulations, we might have regional and then global, and make sure that, you know, all the sector have to be harmonizations. So all regulations, standards that we are going to implement. For example, that what I did mention in the previous slide, when you are accounting and reporting your emission, make sure that you follow the international standards, because otherwise, you know, it won't be accepted from your customer that is in other countries. Technology and knowledge gap as well. Okay, so so these are the challenges. And then you might have a question that, okay, well, we understand this. We know it's not easy. There's a challenge, there's some barriers, some limitation, but how we are going to transform this to be sustainable? Okay, so I would introduce, or I would say that one of the mechanisms that can accelerate the transition to be sustainable is procurement. You know, so I would say procurement is a catalyst. And why? Because, you know, it controls the flow of capitals. A buying decision, especially if customer requests, it can influence and can enforce the environmental and social standards. And then procurement can set supplier expectation and incentive. You know, you can also add this, if we have these cleaner options, we have sustainable options, they may able to get incentive, okay? And sustainable procurement policy can embed the ESG and SDG criteria into contracts, and then scoring, and then the evaluations. Okay, and it can also facilitate cross-sectoral alignment. You know, basically what I use the word that set the same language to speak between, you know, supplier, customers, and it can bridge across the functions, you know, because logistic people might speak something. And then, you know, when you say sustainable, you know, you're sustainable, your customer sustainable, your supplier sustainable, it might not interpret the same. measurement. Okay, and then we can support this through the market power, because buyer can transform the market by mainstreaming a sustainable choice. Okay, so these are the procurement for sustainable supply chain. I understand that I'm quite now it's already a time, right? So I still have some more minutes.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay, so I have so this part is also case studies and then a procurement of supply chain. So I understand that if you are if you're working in procurement, or if you are accounting, or if you are logistics, you are planner, you're familiar with the procurement, you know. So basically, when you get you issue the quotation to your customer, or you request for proposal from your supplier, you have the criteria. And previously, we are very familiar with, okay, you have cost, you know, the cost dimensions that you have to evaluate, quality, lead time, you know, and then whatever that you put on your purchasing conditions. But if we want to pushing for sustainable, the greenhouse gas emissions, you know, SDGs, sustainable criteria have to embed to your procurement. And these are the work that I'm collaborate with Smart Trade Center. Actually, this is a survey from Europe. Most of these companies, I think you know all these companies, is multinational company. And then the question asked them that, okay, if you want to transforming the procurement to be more sustainable, what criteria that you are more likely to add to the purchasing contract? Okay, and then we are grouping this as the emission reporting requirement and then the emission performance requirement. The scale from 1 to 10 is, you know, from just some requirement is easy to do, and then it's starting to get more difficult, you know, or more, it need really require more action from the company. So you see that in the future, if what buyer is more likely to add to the procurement contract as a requirement are in two groups. First is the emission report requirement, and then the emission performance requirement, which, for example, that they're asking that the supplier have dedicated human resource for decarbonization. Okay, so basically you also have to have, you know, one position that working in decarbonization. If you don't have, so you don't tick the box, you know, but if you do, okay, you pass this. And then it requires that your company have to measure carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, and it also requires that you have to disclose carbon dioxide emissions. It also requires that you have to report emission according to ISO 14083. And then number 5, it requires that you have the decarbonization roadmap. Okay, so now you see that it getting more, you have to have really working and then setting the climate action in your company. If you don't have the roadmap, you're more likely that you are not qualified for this customer. Okay, and shifting this to get more, you know, requirement, for example, that it requires that you also have to have the emission reduction initiative. Okay, and this is up to 10, for example, that it requires that you also have the innovation projects according. So this is more likely that it will appear, you know, to your purchasing contract in the future. I think it's sooner, or some of the company already have this. Okay, because I did a workshop for the logistic decarbonization in Thailand, and then yeah, I also got you know, feedback that now, especially company that they have the corporate in US or in Europe, they already implement this purchasing, you know, new criteria that also address some of the greenhouse gas emission. Okay, and if you are part of, you know, supply chain of these companies, it's more likely that, you know, you have to implement this. Okay, and these are the interventions. So basically, you can start from, sourcing strategy, specification, and then the request for a proposal, evaluation, a contract, and then the partnership agreement. And I do believe that later, are you going to share this slide, Andy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we already
okay.
shared it in our. I already share also in a chat box for every
Okay,
who want to
sure.
access.
Because I think I run out little bit
Yeah.
of time, so
I
I'm
think
go
you
quickly.
can go close your presentation because I think there are so many questions here for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I just give
Okay.
you 2 minutes for closing your presentation. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so these are the company, Brambos. So basically, this company is an Australian company. They have operate in 60 countries. I'm not sure whether they have in Indonesia as well. This company, it's a supplier of pallets, and that is supporting the logistic and transportation industry. If you look at this company's profile, this is very clear. A typical supply chain that has scope 3 is more than 97%. And this is a very good example to show you that how supply chain partner is very important on your decarbonization strategy, because, their own emission is just only 3%. It's less than 5%. And most of the emission is come from transportation, logistics. So what they did is they also developed the new procurement according to the previous slide, that is the interventions, and then this is all these to adopt it and then use it. So this is the real case, real world case that really goes step by step from starting to calculate the emissions, and then they realize that their emission is actually from supply chain. So they are implementing procurement as the transition and transforming and decarbonizing their supply chain. Okay, so this is continue by having this for their supplier, and this is set the standard for all the supply chain, to what I say, speak the same language, we measure the same thing. Okay, well, this is actually is my last point. I like to mention a little bit about skill, because we have academic here, and this is also, academic institutions, a certificate. Definitely we need a new skill set. It's very essential for decarbonization journey. This is example from logistics. And, in the past 5 or 10 years, we never learned about this. If you graduated from university in logistic management, supply chain management, we never heard anything about this. But then we have to really have these new skills for our new generation. For example, that, the appreciation of climate science. We also have to understand about carbon dioxide emission equivalent. What does it mean? And then, greenhouse gas emissions, methane, and then, we also have to deriving emission reduction targets. Okay, we have to develop the net zero emission pathway. And, in my past couple of years, I did a lot. I never learned this from school, from university, but also we have to developing this skill. And then you have to keeping abreast of advanced carbon dioxide reduction technology. And this is from Professor Alan McKinnon. Okay, so I cited and then I quote his previous presentation on this new skill set as well. And have to understand the greenhouse gas emissions, also have to about green finance, analyzing the economy, whatever. So this is something that I think we also have to add it to our new skill set. My final slide, final remark is leading the sustainability transition. I would leave only 2 points. First is capacity building. This is very important. Sustainability skill, climate skills, leadership and mindset, and then collaborations. It's clear because we are in a supply chain, we can't work alone, and collaborate in terms of industry, research, and government. So I just leave my last statement that don't treat sustainability as an add-on, but make it the foundation. And okay, so thank you very much for participation, and I
Yeah.
think running a little bit over the time.
It's okay.
And thank you very much. Thank
Very
you.
insightful talk from Ms. Janya about your presentation. So I may conclude that some of the point that, like, if you want to transform your organization, especially when we're talking about the green and decarbonization, it must be first step, especially for in our region, right? We have like a small scale business, so they have to understand internally first about their carbon print and something like around that, and then create the roadmap, and after that they can start the initiative itself. And the second point that I really highlight about we really need a new set skill, because especially in decarbonizations, because it's something new that you have to learn by experience. Like also you said, like you got it from another insight, right, in your experience from another company. Okay, so we have a very lot of questions here
Oh,
for
okay.
you. So we just let's go proceed for the first questions. Let me see for the from Mr. Darja. So good evening, Prof. Janya. What are the main challenge for the company in Thailand in implementing sustainable chain transformation? Probably it's gonna be a general. Maybe we want to see the point of view from the Thailand, so we can compare to Indonesian's market.
Okay, for Thailand. Okay, well, I'm sharing from transport and logistics sector. I think because from what I got information today, we had quite a large group of logistics. I think Thailand and Indonesia is quite similar, that we had a very fragmented transport logistics sector. We had a lot of SME. For example, in Thailand, we have roughly 40,000 transport logistic company, and 95% they are SME. And we have very few large transport company. And most of the company, the way that they are operated, they are subcontract. So there are a lot of carriers. And when we start our journey to transform this and working about the decarbonization, what we found is exactly the same as the case of Bambos. First we start to calculate the company's carbon footprint, and then it's more than 90% is come from the supply chain. Okay, so with that, it's very difficult that how we are going to get all that emissions from the supply chain. So what we did is we start to build the capacity building, a training and workshop for their supply chain partners. Okay, and in the past year, in the last couple of years, we did a large group of the logistic operators, especially SME, and I can see the shifting. First is we give them some of the background, foundation, basic. And one thing about emission calculation in Thailand at the moment is still expensive as well, because you have to hiring consultants, you also have to hiring the VVB verifications. So what we did is we did a course as a trainer, and we are developing their staff, to be able to understand and then measure their road emissions. Okay, so that is first is what we got as in terms of the impact is, they are able to develop their human capacities. At least if you go back to the requirement of procurement, they tick the first box. You have the dedicated human resource, and then secondly, we develop them working in terms of is more detailed of the logistic decarbonization, and that they are able to train the staff in the company. Yeah, so I think if I'm going to answer this question, is the most challenging is because the industry is fragmented. We have a lot of SME. So, because the company that I give the advice, they are a large company, they're a big company. If they want to decarbonize, they also have to bring all the SME on board with them. And then what we did is we decided to go for the training first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
for
that
the
is what might be useful, and I hope that I answer your questions.
thank you, because we see that in a company there's a lot of stuff they want to improve, right? But somehow they forget about the human resources itself. So everyone have to agree that this carbonization also important for the company. So can they train their internal company and something like that? So human resource is very important, yeah, for this kind
Yes.
of. Okay. Okay, let's proceed to another question. I think there are two similar question from Miss Inda and Adelina. The question is, what do you think the hardest challenging technology or challenging mindset when it comes to something like energy innovation and supply chains, and how find the target to pursue those greener supply chains, especially on those area? Because most of the company think better company take a small steps in energy transition or go big, invest heavily from the start.
Okay. Well, so the question is, now we are just talk about the energy transition, right? And then, okay, when we talk about the energy transition, this is not only for vehicle, it's also for facility as well. I think my suggestion is not about big or small, but you have to think in terms of the ecosystem. For example, that okay, I give you one example of Thailand Post. Thailand Post is also a company that I developed their net zero roadmap for this company. And you also have to really understand the strength of your supply chain first. Okay, that is important, the strength of your supply chain, and then your network of your supply chain. Okay, I give you this Thailand Post is very clear. Thailand Post, they has a lot of facilities across countries because they have post office. Okay, so the strategy that we use is we have to go together about facility and the transportation. If you know the strategy have to align together. For example, that Thailand Post is very clear that the strategy is going to electrify the vehicle. Okay, so when they are going to electrify the vehicle, it means that they need the charging stations and they need the green energy for charging. Okay, so this is starting from the first strategy. So when we are developing the ecosystem, the strength of Thailand Post is they have the post office across country. And then the second strategy to support the first strategy and align together is they have to also have the solar power, solar roof for all the post office. Okay, you got what I mean? So actually it's not about, you know, kind of big or small strategy, but you also have to have first your main strategy, and then you develop your own asset, utilizing your asset to support this strategy, and it had to go align together. So normally the downside of the EV or electrification is, yes, it's EV, but you may have not a green electricity. It might be brown, you know, if that electricity is generated from fossil fuel. So if we really want this to be a green, 100% green, zero emission, you also have to develop the green or renewable energy for the electrification, for the electric vehicle as well. Okay, so I'm not sure whether this answer the questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see which question is that. The second, right?
The second one is from Miss Inda. Think better
Yeah.
company.
Okay. So I've summarized my answer to this question is first, and company is different. You know,
Mhm.
some company, and I also have another companies that they are not really buy for electric. They have a different strategy as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it depends on company, but really analyzing what is the strength of your supply chain, what is the strength of your facilities, and then make it align together.
Yeah, okay. So it's not about the small or go big, but it's about you how do you have your main strategy in your company, because every company also have a different capacity, right, in building their better supply chain for greener, and it's only a matter of adjusting to your company how do you utilize this kind of cases.
Yes.
So let's go to if the participants have a feedback, you can go write down in the chat box also about your feedback. So we are going to proceed to another questions is from Mr. Muhlas Hanif. So good evening, Miss Janya. What kind of incentive that financial institution could give to industry which can significantly attach company to implement sustainable supply chain management properly?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the questions.
All right. So this I give you example from Thailand. Okay. Currently, all company listed in stock market have to report emission scope 1, 2, and 3. All right. And all those company they get a tax incentive. That is first. And then secondly, they also partner with a financial institution for it called a green loan, which it has more benefit for a company. That is it is from financial institution. And also apart from that, they also supporting SME as well for it's called green loan. If all those SME they're submitting the proposal of the green transition roadmap, when they are asking, applying for fund from financial institution, they will get a credit. That is different from each financial institution. For example, that exempt some interest for 5 years or for 10 years. Yeah. And not only for in terms of the financial, but if they are on this program, they are also able to join a training, a workshop that organized from that financial institution as well. So I think that is part of the incentive that most of the financial institution supporting. And also I like to add on a little bit that now it's not only from financial as well, but it's from the supplier. For example, like in case of Thailand Post, they're also providing some incentive for their carrier who transforming, the decarbonization according to the company strategy. So they got the incentive in terms of, the payment. And they also got incentive for using the Thailand Post credit for financial institution loan as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. Because we run out of the time, maybe I just pick some of the question from the participants. From Mr. Rizal, hi Prof. Given that Indonesia has the largest Muslim population in the world, the halal aspect plays a significant role in developing a sustainable supply chain, especially for food product. In your point of view, how important the halal compliance in ensuring sustainability within the Indonesia supply chain, beside three pillar of the sustainability? Furthermore, how does it compare with the Thailand as a non-Muslim majority country that has nonetheless developed a strong presence in the global halal market? That's the questions.
Okay, right. Thank you for question. Okay, so I understand this is more focused in food or in general halal products for food products. Okay, so I think this is a very important point because halal food is related to cold chain. And if we are comparing for logistics for cold chain or transportation for cold chain, the cold chain is more energy intensive rather than, in general. So if this is the sustainability is actually not only for greenhouse gas emission, but actually is for cost as well. So I think if the halal supply chain are able to meet or transition to sustainability that will create the competitive advantage for Indonesia. Because if this transition to sustainability, you will open up more channel of the market. And like in Europe, now there's a lot of, regulation, especially, and now there's for cold chain as well. And if you have this in place, I think it will increasing more value added and also with the competitive advantage. And I also like to highlighting that this is a double impact. Sustainability is cost and emission.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that I answer your questions.
Okay, let's just wait for the response and we proceed to another question from Mr. Tommy Joshua. This is a sample question. How can a sustainable company measure the life cycle assessment for future emission preventing and cutting the impact of to global economy?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, if the company developing the net zero roadmap, okay? If the company is developing net zero roadmap according to science-based target, is actually every year you have to reporting emission reduction. That is the way that how we ensure the sustainability of the company's action and roadmap. Okay, am I answer the question? So basically what I understand, your question is, how do you know that sustainability is not just a one time? And then that's it, we develop sustainability roadmap and then we act it for a couple of years and then, no, we don't like it, we stop. So if you do this according to what I mentioned that about the international standards, a science-based target, you have to submit your net zero pathway before you approve, okay? Your roadmap is approved. And that net zero pathway is already a mechanism pushing you for further reduction every year. Because every year until 2050, you have to report this. It means that this is, it ensures the sustainability that every year you also have to work. And then you measure, reduce, work, measure, report until you got the net zero.
I see. All
Yeah.
right. Hopefully it's a answer for that questions. So let's go to another question from Mr. Noval. So good evening, Prof. Janya. What interesting topic. Speaking of transforming supply chain through digital innovation, in your opinion, in terms of transformation, do you think AI will replace such a application for company such as ERP, TSM, WSM, etc., or the AI will be the partner of its application? Thank you.
Okay, so I think this AI will be the partner, or put it this way, AI will make it more smarter. Yeah, so in the future, it may not call WMS or it may not call ERP, but because of logistics, because of the supply chain function is still there. So, our system that operating, it have to have that core function, but AI will make it more powerful, will make it more smarter, will make it more intelligent. So I think, ERP, WMS, TMS is still there, but it might change the name. AI will actually it make it more intelligence. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully it answered the questions. Let's go through another question from Mr. Samuel Darwisman. What is the best way to integrate new contract requirement focus on reducing low GHG emission into the negotiation process with suppliers? And what are the main challenges that might be encountered during its implementation?
Okay. All right. Thank you for the question. So the new contract requirement is I share you what I'm working right now for Thailand. we have to set this as actually is a principle, basic standard for the countries. Because if your company is doing only one company, it may not influencing all market. So what I'm currently working is we are partner with the Department of Land Transport in Thailand. And then we set the new procurement system as the new standards. For example, that all logistic or transportation company in the countries have to meet a certain standards. Okay, for example, that they have to drive according to the green or eco driving, for example. And then after this, and this is going to tie up with some of the regulation. For example, that they might get some incentive because the truck driver, when they renew their license, they might be able to exempt some of the fee. Okay, so we set this as a national standards. And then if company has a higher or more challenging criteria, you can add on top of this. Okay, so that is what my suggestion is first is you have to work with the regulators in your countries, make and set it as a minimal standards, and then company can add on top of this. And the main challenge is you may not able to adopt this for all carrier or supplier because the state of readiness is not the same. So you have to have the transitions or the stage. For example, that if you have, let's say, 20 supplier, okay, and you talk to them who are ready to be the first phase, and then you implement this to the first, and then you set the timeline, and then for the second phase, and then the third phase, okay, and then you get some learning from the first phase implementation to adjust it in the second phase and then the third phase, right? Okay.
Okay, probably that's your question, your answer for that question, right? Probably we're going to pick one more question, maybe from Mr. Naufal. That he said that you mentioned the challenge of visibility, especially in the tier 2 and 3 suppliers. I'm curious, based on your experience, what is strategy that have been worked best to improve coordination and traceability across all supply chain tiers? Yeah, probably he asked you about from your experience, what is the best practice that you ever made in the transformation of this?
Okay. I think for very important is trust and transparency, because you also have to talk to your supplier very clearly that, okay, well, and this is the journey your company has committed for the decarbonization, and you, I mean the supplier, you are part of this journey. So if we are going this, you also have the supplier have to supporting my company as well. And if you are supporting my company, what benefit that you will get? It's actually is a win-win benefit. I think you have to be let them trust you as well. And then you have to transparent that you have to, show them clearly, this is the vision, this is the target, this is evaluation, and then this is incentive, or this is a cost saving. And then, you have to share the benefit together.
Thank you so much for your answer. Because the time is running, so probably that's the last question that will be answered by Miss Professor Janya.
Yeah.
And probably if you have many questions, they can contact you directly.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Because the
At
professor
first I
Janya
thought that, well, 1 hour is actually is quite a lot, but then it seems that is, there's a lot of point for discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. She's really active on the social media also, educating about sustainability. If you have many question or further discussion, you can contact her directly. So before I go to the closing session of this event, I would like to let you have a closing statement Probably around, yeah, you can have your closing statement, then we can go to closing this event.
Okay, so today, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And today's session is very productive, and we have a lot of interactions. And I'm very, very impressed for the supply chain community in Indonesia. That there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of interest in these topics, and I also really do believe that our region as an ASEAN, we are hub of logistics, we are hub of a supply chain. So there's a lot of potential that we can working towards for the sustainability transition, especially that we are resource abundant. We have a lot of renewable energies. So the thing is how to transition this. I think that is something that we also have to think forward. And collaboration is very important, just like today, this is also part of the collaboration, is a sharing sessions, is a learning. And, like me, I'm from Thailand, you're Indonesia. So actually, this topic is no boundary. It is cross-cultural, is global agenda. And for me, I give you something that I think if we are really committed to work, I do believe that we are able to success. And I supporting you for all this journey. And yeah, so just let's greening and let's moving our supply chain to be sustainable together. And for myself, if I'm more than happy, if you have any questions, you can also reach me through my email, my social medias. And then I hope that maybe in the future, we are able to sharing some of the new insights or new finding again, with all you in this event.
Thank you so much, Dr. Janya, for the insightful presentation. It's really helped our community also, especially in a sustainability topics. I quote that you are mentioned that greening the supply chains. It's gonna be a powerful word to inspire all of the community. So thank you very much for your time today for the insightful presentation. Before we proceed to the closing session, probably we will have a photo session, so everyone they can turn on their camera and we will take a picture with Professor Chanya for the documentations. And it will be help to our team. Okay. Okay, so we're waiting for everyone to... Okay, for the ISCEA team ready, they can take for the slide one. You can say cheers. Okay, ready for the slide 2. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think that's all we got for the video. Thank you so much,
Thank
Prof.
you
Chanya,
and
for your
good
time.
night. Thank
We
you,
just
thank
meet
you.
last month and we have a
Thank you.
insightful collaboration today. So
Yes, yeah.
thank you so much.
All
So
right, thank you,
you can
goodbye.
leave
Thank
the
you,
Goodbye
Dokter.
and have a good night.
have a good night. So everyone, to closing this session, I'm going to have a several announcement for our upcoming program. So our upcoming program gonna be CPSP batch 5 online. It's and also we have CSAA batch 40 and CPLM batch 2020. You can go directly scan the barcode for the registration or reach out to our admin for more further informations. And next, also reminder that we will conclude this SCIS 2025 series with the final day that will be held on a Saturday, 12th July at Area Duta Menteng. Seats are limited, so please register soon via isceaindonesia.com/link or through the link that will be shared by community in the chat box. And the next is for the For the upcoming weekly conference, we will held in a Saturday. So in this Saturday, 21st June. So we will have the big theme is about supply chain in navigating geopolitics, localization, and tech disruptions. So don't forget also to join this session because we will have more insightful talk about the supply chain, especially in the navigating geopolitics and tech disruptions. Maybe that's all from me. Thank you so much. If you have any feedback and if you have any inputs for our ISCEA 2025, you can scan the barcode and fill the feedback form. And also see you in next session in a Saturday. Good evening and have a good rest, everyone.
Understanding supply chain management is essential in today's fast-paced business world. It equips professionals to handle complexities, drive efficiency, and stay competitive by keeping up with world-changing trends. Are you ready to elevate your supply chain expertise to the next level? Welcome to ISCEA Indonesia, your premier destination for world-class supply chain certification and recognition. As an authorized knowledge provider with thousands of certificate holders, we offer comprehensive facilities, top-notch material and expert training right here in Indonesia. Our instructors are university professors and industry experts, each bringing years of invaluable experience to the classroom. At ISCEA Indonesia, we are dedicated to delivering supply chain knowledge to professionals in both manufacturing and service industries. We are bringing together supply chain knowledge, both manufacturing and service industries, based on academic research advances in innovative industry trends. Our certification programs are aligned with best practices and industry standards, which are also designed to help you understand the intricacies of the supply chain, from logistics to sustainable practices. With ISCEA Indonesia, you are able to take control of your future and gain global recognition. For your company, having certified professionals can bring strategic insights that can reduce costs and improve overall efficiency in the supply chain. Join a thriving community of supply chain experts and elevate your professional value with advanced supply chain knowledge. ISCEA Indonesia. Certify the best in you.
Supply chain itu harus dikelola dengan strategi yang benar. Perusahaan memiliki karakter yang berbeda-beda, sehingga harus memilih strategi supply chain yang tepat sesuai dengan karakter